This video is sponsored by Noble Gold. Back on January 11th, Frosk, one of the hosts of the revived G4 channel, made what her supporters labeled a powerful statement on sexism in gaming, and how she and previous hosts weren't there to be pretty on the eyes for you. 2 months after this powerful statement, G4 content looks like this.
Oh my God! Oh my God! It's Amaranth, everybody!
In this video, we'll explore the full repercussions of Frosk's meltdown. In order to fully appreciate that, we'll begin by establishing some context, by briefly going through why G4 was relaunched in the first place, before revisiting Frosk's rant and how it would end up forcing G4 in a new direction, and finally, why they would do such a 180-degree turn. Clearly, a lot has happened for G4 in the months since Frosk's rant, but a lot has happened in the nation and world at large too, and very little of it for the better. On the contrary, there's a lot of turbulence and uncertainty going on right now, and according to the financial newspaper The Economist, the stock market lost over $1 trillion so far this year. You heard that right, $1 trillion. Facebook has fallen out of the top 10 stocks, the dollar's position as the world's reserve is not as secure as it once was, and all the markets have jitters. Many are really worried about the long-term ripple effects this might have on them, but not those with gold and silver as their backup plan. They know that with precious metals in their IRA, they'll be fine. Noble Gold has thousands of clients who have safely invested with them. Most heard an ad like this and called the experts at Noble Gold, where you'll be met not by a call center, but by specialists who give you your options. And for the month of March, with any qualified IRA above $20,000, you'll get a 3-ounce Silver American Virtue coin or a 5-ounce America the Beautiful silver coin for anything over $50,000. You know what to do. Call 877-646-5347 now to find out more, or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. See our link in the description. With that, let's venture back in time to the heyday of G4. Back in the days of yore, there was no YouTube, Twitch, or any other platforms for independent content creators to provide news and honest takes on things like movies and video games like there is today. Instead, fans were at the mercy of whichever corporate product establishment broadcasters saw fit to invest in and put out on the airwaves. This is where G4 entered the picture. The Comcast-owned channel was launched in 2002 and was envisioned as an outlet where video game companies could pay to have their products featured in original programming targeting young adult audiences. In other words, a thoroughly commercial enterprise which, to its target audience, could be marketed as MTV but for video games. In being a corporate product, the programming was highly produced, which came at an equally high cost. This worked well to begin with, but as the years went, YouTube increasingly became a force to be reckoned with, and if there was ever a channel that was subject to competition from independent content creators on platforms like YouTube, it was G4. There were more factors, of course, but the rise of independent video game commentary certainly didn't help. The marketplace was changing, and time was up for the kind of corporate product a network endeavor like G4 could offer. 1 decade after its launch, the plug was pulled on G4. But fast forward yet another decade, and the inexplicable decision was made to bring it back. In late 2020, someone had the bright idea that in a marketplace where video game coverage is dominated by independent content creators on Twitch and YouTube, bringing back a corporate outlet where video game companies can pay to have their products featured in highly produced programming was a winning recipe. After sinking untold millions upon millions of dollars into the revival, G4 was brought back in November of 2021, now with live streaming on Twitch and YouTube. Kevin Pereira and Adam Sessler returned as hosts, alongside a number of newcomers, one of them being Indiana Black, who is also known as Froskurinn or sometimes just Frosk. In either event, few cared, as the whole revival went completely under the radar. A few months, and a pitiful number of views later, it was decided that maybe some waves could be created by having Froskurinn attack the audience. Here it should be noted that even before her on-stream meltdown, Froskurinn was already getting a lot of flack, not for being female, but for failing to be sufficiently informed about a number of subject matters she nonetheless had strong opinions about, as well as for being overtly partisan in her gaming console preferences to the point where it was detrimental to the show at large. Backlash over that may have precipitated her rant in the January 11th livestream, where she, out of the blue, transitioned from Red Dead Online to a much more important topic, namely sexism in gaming. You've all seen the rant by now. In it, any and all criticism against her is dismissed as sexist because, and these are her own words, she, quote, isn't as bangable as previous hosts, end quote.
It's somehow...
Talk to him, Frosk!
It has somehow been expected that you can talk about how much you jerked off to women as a compliment.
That
It's
shit weird.
not a compliment.
It's weird.
It's dehumanizing and it's weird. Women do not exist to be nice on the eyes for you. Morgan Webb, Olivia Munn did not exist to be nice on the eyes for you.
In the lengthy rant, which was at the very least in part scripted and certainly cleared with producers in advance, Frosk chided every single male audience member watching for being a disgusting sexist. She had these parting words for G4's audience.
So maybe for 2022, we be a bit nicer, a bit more self-reflective, and we enjoy the fact that people are working hard to make free content for you. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Peace.
Echoing this message was G4 TV Senior VP Blair Herter. He retweeted Frost's rant with the caption, "If you don't hear the below, unfollow me and don't watch G4. We're not for you." The G4 YouTube channel, which already had 500,000 subscribers from before the relaunch, lost multiple thousands of them. That may not seem a lot for a channel that, on paper, has 500,000 of them, but it is when the overwhelming majority of them are dormant. The videos were only getting views in the tens of thousands, and in the aftermath of this, most of them were ratioed to oblivion. While the stunt did increase awareness about both Frosk herself and that G4 was back, it did not have the desired effect, as none of this translated to any of sustained increase in G4 viewership. Quite the contrary. More than the attacks on the audience, the most damaging thing about Frost's rant was her revealing the truth about G4.
Now, here at XPlay, our reviews are written and produced by a team of people. There are too many games for one person to shoulder the burden, so we divide and conquer. And when we use language like we or I, that's the reviewer. That's coming from the mouth and experience of the reviewer reading that review. And that's not to say that Gerard, TBH, Adam, or myself don't contribute to the reviews. We absolutely do. But it'll always be in varying degrees and take a whole team behind us.
In other words, she and all the other hosts, including the hyper-partisan Adam Sessler, are, in a sense, frauds. They are merely talking heads, narrating corporate reviews, written by a team of writers. The only thing the hosts themselves added are a bit of commentary on top, as doing everything is just too much for them. Here it should be noted that outside of G4, there's a whole slew of independent YouTube gaming channels and Twitch streamers that individually have no problems doing what G4 requires a team to do, and they do it all without getting a paycheck from Comcast for their trouble. Everything G4 TV does, hundreds or even thousands of independent gaming channels can do better and more sincere, and they don't need a multi-million-dollar set that should have been left in the early 90s to do it. What Froskurinn really did was confirm to everyone that the revived G4 is a relic of a bygone era, and one that there's no place and no consumer demand for in the current marketplace. No doubt realizing this themselves, a rebranding followed. In a March 11th G4 livestream special with The Austin Show, 2 months to the day after Frost's rant, Caitlin Amaranth was featured, and so was her sex appeal. 1 week after that, Blair Herter, the G4 TV Senior VP who previously backed Frosk and told viewers not to watch, announced he was leaving G4 and instead moving to the Netherlands with his family and a new position with Team Liquid. If he was always planning on doing this as he claims, or if this came about as a possible result of him being invited to leave his position, remains unknown, though we'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments. Supporting the latter, however, is the fact that G4 in a sense is no more, as the YouTube channel formerly known as G4 since has been renamed XPlay, named after what was traditionally their flagship show. The most common reason for such rebrandings is the original brand name has become toxic. By rebranding, one can signal to existing audiences that things are about to change for the better, and hope that new audiences never catch on to any past controversies at all. But will anyone be fooled? With the G4 revival, Comcast gambled untold millions that advertisers would be all in on a corporate channel devoted to gaming, one that would give the right kind of corporate reviews and express advertiser and establishment-friendly opinions and hot takes only. But in order for advertisers to come, the audience has to be there, and prior to Frost's rant, the audience mostly weren't even aware G4 was back. Thanks to the rant, awareness of that increased, but that awareness didn't translate to increased viewership, and without that viewership, advertisers still have no reason to come. Hence, the rebranding as a last-ditch effort to attract audiences. While Comcast has a lot of money to burn, those responsible for G4 being brought back in the first place will be placed on the hot seat if it doesn't bring in the advertiser revenue needed to make this particular investment pay off. In this case though, renaming aside, not that much has changed. Apart from specials in conjunction with other creators, a slight change in lineup, and fewer appearances from Frosk, X-Play does pretty much the same thing as G4 did. In other words, even if it is no longer called G4, X-Play remains the relic that was displaced by YouTube and Twitch a decade ago, and giving viewers very little reason to check it out. Let us know your thoughts on all of this in the comments. And before you go, call 877-646-5347 now to find out more, or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. See our link in the description.